Wokeness is not going away anytime soon. I keep saying this over and over and over again, but I keep seeing people seemingly trying to gaslight me and saying that it's being put away, it's not going away, but we keep getting examples every single day that is not the case. The latest is that British public schools are trying to indoctrinate children with the LGBTQ plus agenda by teaching them that St. Joan of Arc is somehow non-binary, which just doesn't exist. There is a male and female. There is nothing else, but they are trying to push this agenda on British school children here. And this is in a British textbook that the schools over there, secondary schools, use. So GB News' Holly Bishop reports that British secondary schools are using a Collins-published anthology titled Who We Are that claims that St. Joan of Arc is non-binary. Bishop writes, one page features a biography of the French heroine that reads, Joan of Arc is today considered by some to have been non-binary. That page is reportedly not even about Joan of Arc, but is a lesson plan about a drag queen's biography and is specifically attempting to indoctrinate and normalize the disordered LGBTQ plus agenda, as it also states these historical and global references may prepare students unfamiliar with LGBTQ plus identities to understand the content of the extract. So this is happening in a book that is being taught in British secondary schools, published by Collins. Totally evil stuff right here. Joan of Arc was not binary. Non-binary does not exist. Just to reiterate, there's only male and female, and it is coded in our DNA. The book and its description of St. Joan of Arc has been rightfully described as insulting. I actually think he's understating it here, by Professor Robert Toombs, a professor emeritus of French history at the University of Cambridge. This is what he told The Telegraph. Joan of Arc fought as a woman and died as a woman. To call her something else is insulting to her and indirectly to all women who are brave enough to risk their lives for their beliefs, as if women are incapable of heroism. Strong words there from Professor Robert Toombs. I still think that insulting is a little bit of an understatement. It's an outrage. It's an outrage. It's outrageous. Carolyn Brown, a retired psychologist who works for the Women's Rights Network, also blasted the book. Now, I don't know anything about this Women's Rights Network, but what she says here about what this book is and what they're doing to St. Joan of Arc, I 100% agree with. And she says, this is yet another ridiculous example of attempting to rewrite history and erase strong, rebellious female characters from our past. It's insulting to suggest that non-conforming women are not women. Non-binary is a nonsense term. Indeed, the Supreme Court in the United Kingdom recently ruled against including it as an option on passports. So I would argue that St. Joan of Arc was very conforming. She conformed her will to God and did what God asked her to do. Now, obviously, she's talking about something else there. So again, that's why I'm skeptical of the organization she works with and some of the language she uses, but her condemnation of this book and what they're doing to St. Joan of Arc, I agree with. She also said it's also another example of the junk science of queer theory being visited on children. It's unhelpful psychologically to children's development and is likely to cause confusion and anxiety. She's absolutely right. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to damage these children, and she's calling it out right here. So I 100% agree with her. We also had an anonymous teacher, obviously didn't want to use his or her name because they could face punitive measures in the UK. We've seen how many stories of people literally being arrested for social media posts and then even praying silently on the sidewalk. I know that the U.S. State Department recently condemned the British for convicting a woman for protesting outside of a murder clinic. They like to call them, like we call them here for the most part, Planned Parenthood, where they actually are just going in and murdering children. So I call them murder clinics. But anyways, this teacher said that the book makes an absolute mockery of the profession. In schools today, there's simply far too much identity-first, woke reading materials being foisted on pupils at the expense of established classics like To Kill a Mockingbird or Of Mice and Men. We should also not lose sight of the fact that there are cohorts of teenagers vulnerable to reality-denying nonsense like this when it is presented earnestly. Exactly. This stuff is extraordinarily dangerous. And it's not just dangerous to children. Obviously, children are more susceptible to it because their brains aren't fully developed. But I think it's very obvious that adults are very susceptible to this type of propaganda as well. One needs just look no further than what is happening throughout the West and how people are even, we're even at this stage where people are accepting this stuff and it's being actually published in a Collins book instead of being outright rejected. Like if we lived in a sane society, this would not even be a discussion that we would be having because everyone would be like, you're a liar, that's not true, we're not publishing this, and we're not spreading these lies. No, that's not what we're going to do. But instead, you literally have books being published by major publishers to spread this propaganda. So, if you're not familiar with Saint Joan of Arc, she's the patron saint of soldiers and of France. She led French forces against the British during the 100 Years' War and helped unite France under Charles VII. She was eventually captured by Burgundian forces and sold to British forces, where she was then tried as a heretic and witch and martyred for her faith. While being held by the British, Saint Joan wore male armor and clothing in order to prevent being raped by her captors. Catholic.org shares, while in prison, Joan wore military clothing so she could tie her clothing together, making it harder to be raped. St. Joan was canonized by Pope Benedict XV on May 16, 1920, in the papal bull Divina Disponente. He said in the bull, "It is therefore very opportune that Joan of Arc be inscribed today in the number of saints, so that from her example, all Christians may learn that obedience to the will of God is holy and devout, and obtain from her the grace to convert their fellow citizens to obtain heavenly life." She did not back down from her obedience to the will of God. And then I just want to go point out, this is over at Catholic Arena. This is a transcription of the papal bull, or it's a translation of the papal bull. I think they might have used some AI translation services to do this, because I do think they get some of the pronouns wrong. And if you've used any kind of the machine translations, they can get the pronouns wrong with like his or her, and they're not sure which they are. But you can see right here, it says, another charge gave the judges her visions and revelations, which they said came from an evil spirit, and especially those male robes, which Joan said she wore by divine command. So the British people who were working to condemn her using lies about her made it very clear that they recognized that she was a woman, because they charged her with wearing these male clothes and said that was evidence that she was being duped by an evil spirit rather than doing the will of God, which is what she was doing. So anyone trying to claim that she's not a woman is lying to you. They clearly have an agenda, and they are using this agenda now to indoctrinate secondary school children over in the UK. It is an outrage. It should not be happening. This book should be immediately pulled from classrooms. They should not be using this book at all. But who knows if the British people have the will to do that. They have their own saint that they need to look to, St. George, because he also fights the dragon, and they need to definitely rededicate themselves to St. George and get a hold of their country, because it is being consumed by this woke ideology on various levels. This being the latest, trying to push disgusting, evil, degenerate gender ideology onto these school children, and doing it by attacking one of the great saints of the church. It's vile, it's evil. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.